Okay, today is our fourth session of the philosophy seminar. Last week we discussed the 5 bodies of the soul, of the spirit. And previous to that we discussed the concept of unity, that the divinity is actually unity, and that all beings in the universe, humans, animals, plants, and even if we want to consider the earth and the stars, and the suns and planets beings, are expressions of this one universal consciousness. I'd like to start today with discussing some of Christ's teachings and how they may relate to this concept of unity. One of Christ's main teachings was the idea of forgiveness and of non-judgment. He says, that you will be judged as you judge. Do not criticize. Stop looking at the small speck in the other's eyes and look at the large log in your own eyes. The whole concept of ceasing to judge or to criticize other beings. Now, what is criticism? In fact, we discussed this, I think, last week also in our questions and answers on this, because there's a big difference between discrimination and criticism. That is, we can discriminate that something is objectively immoral or objectively wrong. And it's another thing to close our hearts towards that and to condemn that being. Now, how can we understand this? That criticism is a focusing on the body and the personality. It's losing the awareness that behind this body and behind this personality is this divine consciousness. That this being, however he may have lost his sense of divinity and may be acting in a very immoral or unjust way, never ceases to be an expression of the divine. So I need to distinguish in my mind between this person's actions and this person's being. I can condemn the actions, but my heart needs to remain open to this being. I mean, Christ was able to do this even for those who crucified him, who murdered him. And one of his last words was, "Forgive them, they know not what they are doing." So he was able even to forgive those who killed him because of his ability to understand that all what we call evil is simply a function of ignorance. That in reality there is no evil. There is nothing that is not in this divine energy. There is only the ignorance of the truth, and that ignorance causes us, out of our fear, to function in very egotistical ways, and often in very immoral ways and in unjust ways. So one of the teachings which helps us to understand this concept of unity is the teaching of non-criticism, not to condemn people. That is, the ability to accept and understand people in the evolutionary process. Another one, phrase from the Testament of St. John is, "You are in me, I am in you, I am in the Father, and the Father is in me." So he's obviously here not talking about himself as a physical body. Not talking about you. These disciples that were listening to him were not in his physical body, and he was not in their physical body. He's obviously talking here about a state of consciousness, that I am universal consciousness, and thus I am within you, and I am around you, and you are within me. Yeah? So the concept of identifying with his being as consciousness rather than with his being as a physical being or as a personality. Another teaching is to love others as we love ourselves. Now, love, on the emotional level, is the equivalent of unity. It is we have at the supramental level, we have the experience of samadhi or ecstasy, in which our sense of individuality is dissolved. On the mental level, we have the concept that we are one. There's one thing is to experience that we are one, and another thing is to believe that we are one. And then on the emotional level, we have the feeling of love, which makes us want to unite with others in various ways. It could be physically, it could be emotionally, it could be mentally, it could be spiritually. It's an opening and a sense of unity with others. And then on the physical level, we have service. Service to others, which is an expression of that love or an expression of that unity. So Christ here is saying, love others as yourself. Now what most people don't pay attention to here is that he says, as yourself. Which means that he's also asking us to love ourselves. Because a lot of people get this confused. He says, loving myself is egotistical. But if I don't love myself, I cannot really love others steadily. Because whenever they function in a way which intimidates my self-worth, because I doubt my self-worth, then I lose my love for those people. I become defensive and negative, and my heart closes. So, in having done literally hundreds of times seminars on love, it has become so obvious to me that the number one obstacle to loving others is the lack of loving ourselves. The fact that we doubt our self-worth and we don't love ourselves enough. Okay, so by loving others and loving ourselves, once again we are experiencing unity. So I'm experiencing unity with others, I'm experiencing unity with myself. But Christ goes beyond that, and he says, love even your enemies. That is, love even those who harm you or want to harm you. And so this requires the ultimate inner security and the ultimate faith in divine law, to be able to love even someone who has killed a member of my family, or has stolen from me, or has taken my house, or any kind of harm that this person may have wished to do or has done. This requires total faith that, first of all, what I really am is never in danger. I cannot really ever be in danger, because what I am can never die, and what I am can never lose anything, because nothing, it needs nothing. I am fulfillment itself. I am complete within myself. And the second faith which is necessary is that a faith in the wisdom and the justice of the divine law. That there are divine laws which are governing what happens, and that nothing can ever happen to me which is outside of that law. Just as we understand the law of gravity, and we realize that all objects are subject to the law of gravity, that's what we mean by law. Universal laws are universal. They don't, it's not that gravity holds for paper and doesn't hold for plastic. It holds for everything. So the belief that the divine law of justice, that there is a justice, which means that nothing could ever happen to me, ever, which does not go through the filter or does not pass through that law of justice, that for some reason this is happening. Now, if the reason was something I have done in the past, or if the reason is that it's giving me the opportunity to learn some lessons now, and that through this experience I will have the ability to develop inner qualities which I would never develop if I didn't go through this particular situation. First of all, the quality of forgiveness, the quality of love, the quality of understanding, the quality of inner security, of inner strength, then I can accept and I can continue loving the person who is, in a way, the stimulus or the object which is causing me this pain. And then in one of John's, St. John's letters at the end of the New Testament, he says a very interesting thing. He says that perfect love eliminates all fear, that you cannot have fear when you have perfected love. And for a number of years, I meditated on this, tried to understand what relationship could love have with fear. Why would perfect love? And then I realized that when you experience perfect love, you experience perfect unity. And when you experience unity, you cannot fear. You can only fear someone or something from which you feel separate. Did I talk to you about did I tell you the story about my friend in the mountains of Colorado? No. I had a friend who was repeating this mantra. It was actually the Gayatri mantra, like a prayer. He was walking through the mountains there, and he was repeating this mantra over and over again, and he was just getting so ecstatic and so happy as he was walking through the mountains. And he came to a state in which he was just shouting this mantra and feeling unity with the sky, with the trees, with the mountain itself. And he's running down this path like a crazy man. And he falls upon this mountain lion, which are quite dangerous actually. And he looks it in the eyes and he says, and he feels this love for this mountain lion. He says, "Don't be afraid." And the mountain lion turned around and walked away. And also, you know, we have these reports of St. Francis making friends with the wolves and the various wild animals. And the whole thing is that when you exude this sense of unity, this sense of love, you remove from the other being any possibility of harming you. Now, of course, you will say, what about Christ? What about Socrates? What about Gandhi? What about Martin Luther King? These men, in my opinion, were there simply to serve as role models, that is, as examples, to be that, and we would even not know their names if they weren't killed. I mean, their death is what made them what they are in our minds. I mean, we wouldn't even, if Christ wasn't crucified, we probably wouldn't even know about him, and if he didn't resurrect. The same thing with Socrates, who would have just been another philosopher, you see. So these are deaths which are created in order for humans to have in their psyche these models, these frames of reference, in order to understand certain qualities. Now, some other passages from the New Testament. There's a place where Christ says, when the kingdom of heaven comes, they won't say, oh, here it is, or there it is, because the kingdom of heaven is within you. So it's not a place. It's a state of consciousness. I mean, there's no other way to understand this. The kingdom of heaven is within you. It's not up in the sky, and there's no one sitting on some throne. It is a state of consciousness, a state of awareness, which you come to when you get free from fear, when you get free from the illusion of separateness from everything, when you experience unity. And then in St. John, the message that God is spirit, that God is not so much a person, God is spirit, it's an spiritual energy. And then also this is from Paul's letters to the Corinthians, surely you know that you are God's temple and that God's spirit lives in you. Okay, so a problem has been created in Christianity throughout the years, in which, I don't know why this happened, people were given the the message that God is something outside of themselves, something foreign to themselves, a being who judges them and who will punish them. Obviously, this is not what the real message was. You are the temple of God, and God's Spirit lives within you. He's not this man with a beard sitting up in heaven, looking over you, condemning you, and punishing you. It is spirit, it is consciousness, it's energy, and it's within you. And then the words of Christ himself. Christ says, you are gods. We know that what the Scripture says is true forever, and God called those people gods. So Christ himself says, you are gods. Another one from Paul to the Colossians. And the secret is that Christ is in you, which means that you will share in the glory of God. So those are just some passages which help us to understand that the concept of God as universal consciousness, as an omnipresent consciousness energy motivating all beings, is not a concept foreign to Christianity. Although many Christians may have not ever been offered this idea, it is an inherent aspect of Christianity. Now, I'd like to change subject, and we're going to discuss suffering and the cause of suffering. What causes human pain? Now, we're talking to some degree about physical pain, but mostly we're talking about emotional pain. What causes human suffering? The word in Sanskrit for suffering and for the cause of suffering is klesha. K-L-E-S-A, klesha. If you'd like to look at one of the papers that you have, it says how we create suffering on top. And you see up above we have the spirit. Now, the spirit, when it projects its consciousness into the physical realm, is subject to what in Sanskrit is called maya. Maya means illusion. We might also call it amnesia. That is, the spirit forgets its nature. In the example of the light bulb and the electricity, if the electricity is the spirit, when the electricity starts to express itself through the light bulb, it forgets that it's electricity in this model and thinks it's the light bulb. And from the moment it thinks it's the light bulb, it believes that its existence is dependent on the light bulb. And if the light bulb is going to be broken, this electricity, which has forgotten its real nature and thinks it is the light bulb itself, is afraid, of course, of the light bulb being broken. And so I, as universal consciousness, living in the body, having lost the awareness of my true nature and identified with myself as the body, I'm afraid for the body to die. I also, however, evaluate myself according to the vehicle, the body, and especially in comparison with other bodies. So I compare myself physically, I compare myself emotionally, I compare myself materially, I compare myself psychologically, emotionally, and then I feel worthy or unworthy depending on how I compare. So I say, well, there's a light bulb there which is much brighter. I'm not worthy. And there's a light bulb over there which is not worthy at all. It's only giving off 5 watts of electricity. So the electricity, which is spirit, once it gets into the vehicle of expression and loses awareness of its own nature, which is electricity, which is energy, identifying with the body begins to suffer. So the second aspect, so the first cause of suffering is ignorance. Ignorance of my true nature. The second, and that's called avidya. Vidya means to see. Avidya means not to see. Okay? The second cause of identification, of suffering, is the identifying with the body and the personality. This is called asmita. I identify with the body. I say, I am this body. I am this personality. Now, life is very much like a dream. In a dream, we believe that we are in a certain situation, and either we feel very happy about that situation, if it's a pleasant one, or we feel very fearful, someone is chasing after us, trying to kill us, or something dangerous is going to happen. And then we wake up and we realize I wasn't that who was in the dream. I wasn't the person being chased. And sometimes, unhappily, I wasn't the person. I always have these flying dreams, and I wake up, I say, why can't I fly, you know? Oh, I can't fly. You know? So, depending on the dream, I'm either happy or unhappy that I woke up. The same thing is told to us by those who have had near-death experiences, that when they have left their body in surgery or in a car accident, it could be even for 15, 20 minutes, and the body is clinically dead, which means that the brain and heart have no function. They see the body down there, full of blood, dead, see everybody crying, see everybody trying to bring the body back to life, and they're fine. It's just like waking up from the dream. Just as we wake up from our dream in the morning and we say, well, I wasn't that. They wake up from the dream and say, oh, I'm not the body. I'm not that. Here I am. I'm up here and I'm looking at that down there, and I'm not that. And they experience this incredible peace. And of course, very few ever want to get back into the body. And when they do get back into the body, their lives has changed totally. Because now, with that awareness, which is not a matter of faith anymore, it's not a matter of belief anymore, it's a matter of experience. They have no more doubt, and they're much more relaxed about life, and their values change. They give much more importance to spiritual life, to spiritual development, and much less importance to matter, because they realize very clearly that they're going to leave everything behind them. Okay, so the second cause of suffering is identification. Now, once I identify with the body, then three other causes are born. One is called raga, which means attachment. The other is called dvesha, which means aversion. And the third is called abhinivesa, which means attachment to life in the physical body, which is a very special attachment, which we separate from all the other attachments. And here Patanjali says that even the wise find it difficult to overcome this. For example, however wise a person may be, the instinct is to save his body. I mean, if a car is coming at him, if he's about to fall off a cliff, always the desire will be to stay in the body. That doesn't mean, of course, like Christ and like Socrates, that they wouldn't approach death calmly if that serves some spiritual purpose. I mean, both of them were told, either you stop saying what you're saying, or you're going to die. In both cases, it was the same. He says, okay, well, I'm not going to stop saying what I'm saying. This is the truth, and I'm saying it. So if you want me to die, I'll die. So they were able to overcome the fear of death. Their principles and their purpose in life was higher than the fear of death. Now, from the moment I attach myself, I identify with the body, then immediately I experience the fear of the death of the body or the suffering of the body. And so immediately I become attached to whatever will ensure the life of the body and the pleasures of the body and avoid the pain of the body. So I have what I call attachments and aversions. I have an aversion towards some things which are unpleasant for the body, and I have attachment for whatever gives pleasure to the body. So that could be food, it could be drugs, it could be cigarettes, it could be coffee, it could be alcohol, it could be anything which gives a sense of pleasure. Then, becoming attached to the personality and saying I am in the personality, then it becomes much more complicated, because the personality has many more needs than the body does. It needs continual affirmation. I become very attached to how I appear to others, both physically and as a personality. I become very preoccupied with what other people think about me and how they see me, about affirmation in any way that I can, either through my appearance or my intelligence or my physical strength or my wealth or my fortune or my professional success. I mean, everyone seeks to be affirmed in some way, because the personality itself has no center of power. It is empty. It is an empty creation. It is just a programming, a group of programmings. It has no center. It doesn't have its own light. It's like the moon in comparison to the sun. So this emptiness of the personality causes us continuously to try to manipulate our reality, to control people and to control situations, so that we will be able to experience security and affirmation and fulfillment through the external environment, because we don't have yet internal fulfillment or internal security or internal self-worth. So we become dependent. Okay, so the moment I identify with the personality, I become dependent on others, I become dependent on things and people around me and situations, in order to feel the security, the self-worth, and the fulfillment that I'm seeking. When I become dependent, then a second fear is created, and that is the fear of not having these, or the fear of losing them. So it's not like because I have a spouse that I relax, or because I have money I relax, or because I have health I relax. Then I live in the continual subconscious fear of losing them, and often sacrifice my values, sacrifice my conscience, sacrifice my dreams, sacrifice my life goals, just so that I don't lose some of those external sources of affirmation, security, or fulfillment. I mean, you cannot be attached and be free. You cannot be yourself as long as you are attached. Always, in some way, you will compromise yourself. Now, compromising out of love is a beautiful thing. But compromising out of fear of losing is another thing entirely. You see, compromise and sacrifice out of love are virtues. But when we compromise and we sacrifice out of fear of losing and not out of love, then this really doesn't help us on our spiritual path, and it doesn't really give us any lasting results on the physical level either. We're going to be feeling that we have been traitors to ourselves, and we're going to be feeling manipulated, we're going to be feeling injustice, we're going to be feeling suppressed by the fact that I continually sacrifice my real needs, my real feelings, my real goals, my real dreams, not out of love, because that would be okay, but out of fear of losing the other, or losing the other's approval, or losing the other's love, or losing the other's support in some way. So then I live in this vicious circle of fear and attachment. And this is where we are now. Okay? So we came into these bodies, we forgot who we were, we identified with the body and the personality, then we began to fear for the body and the personality, and then we got programmed to what we have to have in order to be okay. We have to have a spouse, we have to have money, we have to have appearance, we have to have a house, we have to have this, we have to have that, in order to be safe and worthy and accepted by society. And then the fear of losing all of that is created, And then I live in this continual cycle, vicious circle of fear and attachment, fear and attachment, fear and attachment. And I lose total awareness of my true self, in this case. I mean, we are all addicted to something. We may not be addicted to heroin, but we're addicted to our spouse, or we're addicted to our appearance, or we're addicted to certain kinds of foods. Or everything is a matter of addiction, or of attachment. Now, the problem is that these roles or these attachments don't stop with ourselves, because we create relationships. Okay? So take a look at the other page that you have now, the one which has this circle here with all of these subcircles around it. Okay, so in the center is our soul, or I guess that should actually be spirit there, as we have defined spirit. And then we have CB, that's the causal body. And then we have HI, that's the higher intellect. Then we have the mind. Then we have the energy body. And then we have our body. So we have this spirit encased in these 5 bodies that we discussed last week. Okay? Now the thing is that once we identify with this body, say for example the attachment outside up here, then we're concerned about its health, any pains that it has, its comfort, its appearance, and all its desires. So I sit to meditate, and I want to experience my true self, and immediately my mind goes to what I need to do today, how I need to control reality in order to get from my body what it needs. How it can improve its appearance, how I can avoid its pain, how I can fulfill its pleasures. Now, this is not too bad. That doesn't occupy us too much. But what happens now, we get a partner, okay, and we create a relationship. So now when we sit to meditate, we're not only concerned about our body, but we're concerned about our partner's health, our partner's behavior towards us, our partner's safety, our partner's appearance in society and to our family. And especially in the East, we don't just marry a partner, we marry a family. Okay, so we have this whole family around the partner, which comes along with the deal. Okay, his parents, his brothers and sisters, and all of their problems, and all of their perceptions, and all of their ideas and beliefs, and their problems. Okay, so now when I sit to meditate, the mind, it's very difficult to pull the mind out of all of that and experience my true nature. But that's not enough. We make children, okay? So now we have the problems of the children, we have the health of the children, the success of the children's behavior, the children's appearance, and of course the children's safety. So now you can see that the mind is getting more and more engaged. There are, with every role, the role that I am the spouse of this person, and that I am the parent of this other soul in the evolutionary process, immediately creates more attachments. Every role has its own attachments. So when I say I am the body, I have certain attachments. When I say I am the spouse of, then I have more attachments. When I say I am the parent of, I have more attachments. Now, let me tell you something before we go on. This does not mean that the spiritual process means saying that I am ignoring my spouse or ignoring my children. Obviously, that would not be the proper thing, and there would be no evolution in that. Evolution can never go against love or duty to loved ones. What it means is that I am not identifying my safety and my self-worth. One thing is to love my spouse. Another thing is to evaluate my safety and my self-worth through my spouse. Another thing is to care for my children. Another thing is to say, I am worthy if my children have this degree or have this success. See, in those cases, I am trying to take from my spouse or take from my children security and self-worth and fulfillment. So the problem here is not having a spouse and children. The problem is not giving and serving and loving. The problem is wanting to get from their from them and from their lives our own sense of self-worth and our own sense of security. Rather than digging deep into our own spiritual nature, taking our security and self-worth from that and giving to the spouse, giving to the children, and not being concerned about not believing that my security or my self-worth are in any way dependent on what they do, what they don't do, how they behave, how they appear, or even their health. We can want to help someone be healthy, but we cannot create their health. I know this very well because I've been trying for 30 years to create health for people. And you just can't create someone else's health. They have to want it, and they have to do what they need to do to create it. Okay. Except for that, now we have our profession. Okay. So when we identify with ourselves as a professional, that I am a teacher, I am an artist, I am a doctor, I am an engineer, or I'm a housewife, whatever profession it may be, then I am concerned about my success in that profession, my payment, unless you're a housewife, my employers, and my co-workers. So now I have a whole other, if you like, center of energy which is drawing my mind outward. Because I need to have all of these under control in order to draw my mind within. Or I have to detach myself from them. There's two possibilities. Either I have all of this perfectly as I want it, and so that I can go within, or I have to detach myself and say, I can go inside and I can experience my inner nature even though these are not all the way I need them to be. And so then we begin to experience an inner strength, an inner source of peace and self-worth and fulfillment. And we can give to all of these sub-circles. We can give to our body, to our partner, to our children, to our profession, without being caught up in what we're going to get out of them, without needing to control. One thing is giving, another thing is controlling. We often confuse these. Especially parents confuse these with their children. One thing is to give and support a child, another thing is to control the child so that the child becomes what I need the child to become in order to feel my self-worth as a parent. Because I have identified myself with that role. I said, I am worthy if I am a good parent. And I am a good parent if my child has these grades, and has this profession, and has this health, and this lifestyle. So I'm seeking my self-worth through that. It's one thing to support, another thing to seek self-worth. Then we have our possessions. And we have to keep our possessions safe from others, our image through our possessions, our comfort through our possessions, our appearance through our possessions. Our house, our car, our furniture, whatever belongs to us, whatever belongs to this physical body, is something else which takes my energy out into the world, takes my mind out into the world, and doesn't allow it to go. And this is why so many yogis in the spiritual path have chosen to have as few possessions as possible. Because it's just another time waste, another energy waste, and not only that, it's also a mind waste. The mind has to occupy itself. And now we have our parents. Okay, so we have our parents' safety, our parents' health, our parents' behavior towards us, their appearance, their approval, which is very important to us, and their problems. So now I have another magnet outside of myself, drawing energy out, drawing the thoughts out into the outside world. And then we have our friends. And we have their problems, and their approval, and their health, and their behavior. And then we have our abilities and our talents, and how we compare to others, and how whether we are recognized for our abilities and our talents, and the results of our abilities and our talents. So for example, I identify myself as a painter, or as a dancer, or as a cook. And I say, well, I am worthy if my cooking is loved, or my paintings are appreciated, or my lectures are well received. So, you can see what's happening here. We have this in the center, this spirit, which needs nothing of all this, which is Sat Chit Ananda, which is totally full within itself, it needs nothing, but upon incarnating through these 5 bodies and identifying with those bodies, experiences fear and then seeks to control the world around itself and to take from the world around itself a sense of security, a sense of self-worth, and a sense of fulfillment. Again, I remind you, the problem is not having all of these. And definitely the problem is not giving to all of these. Giving to our parents, giving to our children, giving to our spouse, serving society through our profession, giving to our friends. There's no problem with all of that. The problem is basing our security, self-worth, and fulfillment upon them and trying to take. Of course, though, the spiritual process then is a process in which we gradually, by the process of disillusionment usually, and realizing that people cannot give us what we are looking for, that the world cannot give us. It's a matter more of exclusion than anything else. By having been disillusioned over and over again, we are forced to look in and find from within ourselves that which we are seeking until now to get through others or through objects. Objects or positions or new things or people can make us happy to a certain extent and for a certain period of time. But everything is in a process of change. So the only real solution is to develop this inner source. And this can be done in these 4 ways that we have already mentioned. Through service, through devotion to the divine in any form that you choose or non-form, through knowledge, through wisdom, and through meditation or through the transcendence of the mind. I would also add to that the psychological process of self-analysis and the transformation of the belief system. That is, this is what we do in the Emotional Harmony Seminar, analyzing the specific places in which my mind gets drawn out into away from my center. I lose my center and I am out in the world being unhappy. And to see what is the particular belief which makes me vulnerable here to lose my sense of peace and to be able to transform that belief. Now Patanjali, who I remind you wrote his book 300 to 500 years before Christ, suggests two solutions for this. One solution is what we already employ in the Emotional Harmony Seminar, and that is called the involution of the emotions. That is, I notice that I have a negative emotion. Okay. Then I say, what is the attachment which is causing this negative emotion? When I discover the attachment, then I ask, what role am I identified with here which creates that attachment? Because every attachment comes from a certain role. The role of the body, the role of the spouse, the role of the teacher, the role of the parent, the role of the child. I am playing some role here. The role of the spiritual person. And then I say, when I discover the role, I say, I am not this. I am spirit. So it's a combination of psychological analysis and spiritual affirmation. So I go from the emotion to the attachment, from the attachment to the role, and then the awareness that I am not this. I am not a parent. I am a spirit. The role of the parent is one of my vehicles of evolution. By playing the parent, I am learning and I am serving. I am not an engineer. I am not a teacher. I am a spirit in the process of evolution. I serve by being a teacher. I serve by being an engineer. You see? So this is just an aspect, one of my roles, one of my vehicles for expression on the earth. I am not that. The entirety of my being is not limited to that. So that's one technique which Patanjali gives us. It's half psychology and half spiritual affirmation. The second technique he gives is meditation itself. It's called the practice of truth. That is, keeping in my mind continuously the awareness that I am spirit, that I am divine energy, regardless of stimuli. In the first case, I have a stimulus. There's something happens and I feel badly, and I use that opportunity to connect to the truth. So in this way, every pain becomes a doorway to the truth. It's a wonderful technique. Because every time I suffer, I am guided to the truth. Because why am I suffering? Because I am attached to this. Why am I attached to this? Because I believe I am this. I am not this. You see? So every suffering becomes a reminder of the truth. And the other is meditation itself, daily, 20 minutes, twice a day, or in general throughout the day, being aware that my true nature is not this, and trying to connect, to transcend the mind and experience ourselves not as the mind and not as the body. Okay, so that is the lesson for today. I hope that through this week, so this week you have an assignment, okay? The assignment is on the back of this page that you just looked at. This is you here. This is your spirit, your causal body, your higher intellect, your mind, your energy body, and your physical body. And what I would like you to do for next week is to make your own web diagram. Your own diagram. That is to put around you the circles of your life. What are the circles? And I would like you to do this in a way which visually shows us what is most important to you. For example, if your children are a big thing, make a big circle. If your appearance is a big thing, make a big circle. If your parents are a small thing, make a small circle. You understand what I mean? Make the circles in some way to the extent that they show how much of your mental energy goes towards that. If your health is a big thing, put your health in there, a large circle, you see. And around each circle, write the attachments. What are the attachments that I have in relationship to my children? What are the attachments that I have in relationship to my work, or to my health, or to my appearance, you see, to my body? So with each role, try to see the attachments which are there. So you have these circles, and around each circle you have these rays going out, and you put on each of these lines the attachments there. And next week we will discuss your web of attachment, your own personal web. Now before we have any questions, let's do our meditation. So you can take a comfortable position. You can take a comfortable position. Your spine straight. Focus on your breathing. Breathe more slowly and more deeply. With the help of your breathing, allow your spine to become more straight. Now you can begin your alternate breathing, focusing on the rhythm of the breath. Allowing the energy to flow upward from one center to the other. Allow the mind to be focused on the breathing. Now you can allow your breathing to be natural. And allow your legs to be relaxed. Allow your abdomen to be relaxed. Allow the solar plexus to relax. Allow your shoulders to relax. Allow your face, your jaw, your cheeks, relax. Allow your eyes to relax. And feel your forehead. Allow your forehead to relax. And in the center of your forehead, experience the light. Allow the light to grow, to increase. To fill all of the area of the head. Flowing into the brain, relaxing the brain. And take a few moments to communicate with the Divine in your own way, spontaneously and sincerely. Now, bring to your mind your closest friends. And allow them to be encircled in a sphere of light. And offer them to the Divine. Into your mind come your parents. Envision them in a sphere of light, with light around them and in them. And offer them into God's hands. Entrusting them to the universe. Into your mind come your love partner. Allow him or her to be in the sphere of light. Offering him or her to the Divine. Letting go of all anxieties, of all thoughts. And if you have children, let your children come into the sphere of light. Entrust them into the light. Let go of all thoughts and concerns. And allow your mind to move in to the center of your being. And every time it gets occupied in thoughts about something, place that something in the sphere of light, offer it up, and continue your journey to the center of your being, where you are concerned about nothing, where you experience peace and fulfillment. If thoughts come into the mind, realize that they have nothing to do with your true self, and withdraw into pure consciousness. can gradually let go of the concept of your body. Okay, do you have any questions about today's subject or about the philosophy in general or about your meditation?
It's quite interesting. I've just gone through reading a book called Stepping into the Magic.
Stepping into the magic. Yes.
It's a very similar concept to the one that you're been talking about today. She calls it that we're all little sparklets.
We're all?
Sparklets.
Sparklets.
The one divine spark.
Yes, yes. It's a concept which exists in all religions if one investigates it, in all philosophies, that from the one come the many. Anything else you'd like to know? Maida?
I have a problem with meditation. I can't concentrate for more than 10 minutes. And it's as if I have a clock ticking. Every time I open my eyes, it's exactly 10 minutes.
What do you feel after 10 minutes that causes you to want to?
I don't know, it's not that my body feels a pain or something. I'm used to this position. But it's, I'm thinking at the time, I can't do it anymore, I can't go on, I have to open my eyes, and then I do open my eyes, and it's 10 minutes, and I can't continue.
What is it that's unpleasant for you that says I cannot go on? Is it the boredom?
No,
Is it
I can't exclude. I get,
Yeah, exactly.
after a time.
I'm not on
Longer
such
today.
an accurate clock, but I can't go 20 minutes.
But then I get thoughts intruding.
Well, I have thoughts intruding too. We all have thoughts intruding. But just what exactly do you feel?
I don't know, maybe I thought that the problem is that I don't have a specific object of concentration. I just like to stare at this big black dark screen that, when I close my eyes, and I like just to stay still and feel this this quiet.
Okay, look, when let me make a suggestion. When you start having these other thoughts and feelings, just observe them. Let them then become the object of your awareness. And just observe your tension. Observe your anxiety. Observe your discomfort. Become the witness. You see, and this will give you eventually the ability to observe your emotions in your daily life. This will help you to exercise the ability to become separate from the functioning of your mind. Your mind is doing something here, and you're observing it. At some point you stop observing it, because until that point you're just observing it, and then it takes over.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so you just develop the ability to say, okay, I'm just watching this. I'm watching my mind do this thing. My mind is doing this, and you just watch the mind doing that. And just stay. I think also it would help if you put an alarm clock, and this way you won't have any question about the time. So if you put an alarm, says, okay, I'm just going to stay here, and if you don't have to go to 20 minutes, do 12 minutes, and then do 15, and then do 17, and then do 20. There's gradually develop, and you know that you don't have to be worried about the time. The alarm will tell you.
Isn't 12 minutes too little?
But you say you're doing 10. It's an improvement. We don't. Yeah.
When this happens to me, and I have exactly the same experience, I'm fighting with myself to stop these thoughts from coming in. And you know how you say with patience and with love, you're supposed to gear yourself back. Well, my patience runs out at some point, and I start getting frustrated, and it seems counterproductive to sit there saying, trying to make your mind do something, and when you're trying to not do.
Just don't fight with the thoughts. Just observe the fact that you have thoughts, and that become the object of your meditation. Let your own mind, your own mental process, become what you're watching. And don't need to fight. Okay, I accept that my mind wants to have these thoughts, because if you get into this conflict, really, it's self-defeating. So try just developing the witness and watch.
I get very fluttery like that as well. I'm fluttering from one thought in my mind to the other and observing them. But then I find sometimes, well, good or not, that towards the end, just when it's getting to 20 minutes, I'm getting into it.
Yes.
And then I think, oh, well, it's 20 minutes, I've got to stop.
Oh, you can go to half an hour if you want.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Doesn't happen often.
Yeah. It's natural. It's the nature of the mind. Try doing something like exercises beforehand, or dancing, or walking in nature, or taking a shower. Try to do something which balances the energy. And if you know yoga, yoga is the perfect prelude to meditation. And just try to do these. Also try to do them at the same time every day. Try to do them in the same place every day, if possible. And this will help to increase the concentration. And also at a time in which you don't. This is why it's suggested that we do it in the early morning, before sunrise, because we can't do anything else. You see, but if you're doing it at 10 o'clock in the morning, there are many other things you could be doing at this time, and it's very natural for the mind to go towards them. Whereas if it's 6 in the morning, you can't call anybody, you can't go to work, you can't do anything else, and so immediately the mind is precluded from thinking of many things. Doesn't mean it, it's going to solve the problem, but this is why it's suggested. Also, the air itself, the space itself, has less thought vibrations in it. And if you could do it at 4 in the morning, it's even better. Because then, really, the thought vibrations are at their minimum, since everyone is sleeping. Anything else?
I like quite a strange show. I get funny thoughts sometimes. It's very, very quiet, and it was lovely. And suddenly I got this little cartoon figure jumping and dancing and singing at me.
Okay, enjoy them. Just watch that.
I'm enjoying the show. That's quite a story when you say that.
Okay. Sorry I broke her up. just watch everything. Whatever comes, just watch it. Huh?
It was just like that, I was talking with you, and it said, what was it? Oh, I'm the fun and enjoyment bit.
Yeah. Okay, anything else about what we said today about the web of attachment?
Something else you said, I was interested. You said that the models that Gandhi and the others
Yeah.
models, etc., and that we probably wouldn't even know them if they hadn't died.
I disagree with Gandhi.
Surely they played such an important part in history, but you think that it's because of their death that...
Oh, definitely. If Christ didn't resurrect himself after the crucifixion, there wouldn't be nothing to remember, really. Wouldn't have any power at all. All the power of Christ's story is his resurrection, which gives it credibility and its strength. if you want really to have someone become very powerful, make a martyr out of him. I mean,
Yes.
martyrs have power. You just kill him, and then you made him into. He has much more strength dead than alive.
My Hindu friend was big on Gandhi, and she said, because the Hindu killed him, and she said the reason was that he asked too much of people. That was why. Because I was surprised that a Hindu had, shot him.
Well, he was an extremist. He was an extremist.
She said
Didn't.
he asked too much of the people.
Well, he was asking them to live in harmony with the Muslims. Yeah. And he's an extremist Hindu. Yeah. Just as an extremist Jew killed Rabin some years ago. I mean, these extremists, anyone that goes towards peace, it's the same thing.
It's all the good dying that strikes us. The good, get rid of it.
It's something that I'm not sure I remember my thoughts on this now, but I put down that okay, it's wrong to kill anybody, but what about in self-defense? I heard that we have a duty to preserve our body or something like that.
Yeah. This is I think most people, it's very natural to defend themselves from anyone that's trying to kill them or harm them. And of course, it's also even more natural, I would say, to protect their loved ones if their loved ones are in danger. And certainly this would have a very different karma than killing for any other reason. But I suspect that some karma will be created, even though you're doing it for this reason.
So even to defend yourself, even to...
I suspect that every action has a reaction.
But this is the action from action. It's not the action without the reaction. It's a reaction from action.
Yeah, but it's every action will have its reaction. My reaction becomes an action towards which there will be a reaction. Yeah, that's why I say it'll be different. It'll be different than killing for any other. Seems to be